I think, Professor Cook, you think that we should leave it shouldn't be 70%. We should keep it where it is, and not just for small business, but a lot of minority businesses. We're in a tough spot to start, always tougher for certain reasons, and the pandemic affects those businesses even more, and they definitely, we need to continue it at pretty high levels, some of the assistance.
That's right. And I think that I watched this when I was in the Obama administration. There was stimulus, and then there was pullback, and then we had this very, very slow recovery. I think we do have a playbook. We know that in the middle of the recession before, there was a thought that maybe we were being too generous, that we were costing taxpayers too much. But what we see, the evidence we see that Steve just alluded to, is that it is all lining up on the side, or most of it that I've read, is lining up on the side that it is not providing a disincentive to work. So it is buoying the economy, and that's what we need right now. And certainly if we're not going to do more with respect to UI, we need to do more with respect to direct payments. I mean, it's not as though these are mutually exclusive. There needs to be much more done on all fronts, PPP, on UI, and with respect to the direct payments.
And the actual numbers of minority, Black, and Hispanic businesses that are expected to close, there are huge gaps between.
That's right.
They're just factual gaps. So do we need to do this differently based on the individual businesses we're talking about? They're usually consolidated in accommodation and food services, retail, some of the most affected by COVID sectors. So, you can't just do it with one broad brush.
No, that's right, because their initial conditions were different. So what Congress said originally was that certain businesses were supposed to be targeted, and those were minority businesses. Now, what we saw was that the data weren't collected. So what I am asking, what I asked in the small business hearing in Congress last week, was that they needed to collect these data, and they needed to make sure that these businesses were targeted. And I also suggested that the smallest businesses were not the beneficiaries earlier on, because they were the ones who didn't have the pre-existing relationships and so on. And why do we care about those? Some of the smallest, newest businesses are the ones that bring innovation. And if we don't want a long-term hit to the economy, to economic growth, we want to make sure that they have the funding they need. 53% of restaurants have already closed permanently. I mean, we can't measure the damage with respect to getting small businesses back in the game once this is all over. So we really have to be aggressive with respect to controlling the virus first, and then with respect to making sure that businesses in general and these other smaller businesses stay afloat.
Steve, you're still with us, I think.
Yeah, I don't know if it's a disagreement, but put it this way. If I had to choose between the $1,200 check and the $600 benefit, I'd go with the $600 benefit. And I'm not sure that the professor was kind of making that distinction. The reason is this: the $1,200 benefit goes to everybody. The $600 benefit goes to those specifically who don't have work. And if I had to choose between the two, I don't like the $1,200 benefit for that reason. The other thing is, I have some sympathy with the idea that you do want to get the incentives right. I don't think you can be in the economics profession and not agree that monetary incentives are important. And that's why I think there's this idea out there by Schumer and Wyden that I don't understand why it's not getting more support, and I'm going to try to get it there, which is to tailor the size of the federal benefit to a state's unemployment rate. And that at least is something that might calibrate the amount that people are getting to how dire or how much improved the unemployment rate is in their region.
No, I think it's a good idea. And I would say that I'm thinking of these as being mutually beneficial, being additive. And certainly the evidence that I've seen has focused largely on the UI benefits and PPP together, keeping the economy afloat. So I think that we want to keep our feet on the gas and not put the brakes on right now as a result of that. And yes, I think targeting unemployment is probably the best thing to do. We don't have, the deadline is July 31st. People have to plan. They're going to pull back all kinds of spending. And what I really worry about is the wave of bankruptcies, the wave of mortgage defaults, the wave of evictions that will happen if UI isn't extended and extended at a generous level. So yes, maybe extend it at $400 to $600 weekly. Not with the $600 cut that is being discussed right now, $1,600 cut that's being discussed right now, but to extend it so that it stays the same while we figure out the bureaucracy, because anything we do to UI is going to take time.